can feel as if you're doing everything right, but despite your best efforts, saving money just does not happen. And you're not alone. This happens to a lot of people. A lot of people can definitely sympathize. And there are several reasons why this might be the case. Some that are probably not even on your radar. Number one, you probably did not set a goal. Most of us can agree that saving money is the smart thing to do. It's the responsible thing to do. If you want to get ahead, if you don't want to live paycheck to paycheck, if you want to prepare for the future, you have to save your money. But knowing and doing are two completely different things. And even though you know it's the right thing to do, oftentimes that is not enough motivation to start saving. So if you really want to get out of this rut, you have to come up with a why. In other words, you have to clearly define why you want to save money. And the reason is going to be different for everyone, but you need to get really specific and decide what you're tired of. And for some people, it might be they're tired of getting their check, paying all of their bills, and having nothing left over for experiences or to even go out and buy a cup of coffee. For another person, maybe they want to travel more. Maybe they want to give their kids experiences. The reasons vary because it's only once you understand why you're doing this that you're really going to be motivated to move forward and stick with it. Number two, and this is a mistake that a lot of people make, and it's often just a matter of you're not making saving money a priority. So in other words, you get paid and you give everybody else under the sun your money first. And it's only after you've taken care of other things that you think about moving money into your savings. And I get it. I understand. This is how a lot of people operate. It's how I used to operate. But unfortunately, if you're the type of person and you're waiting until the end of the month to see what's left over before you start saving, there is a 99.9% chance that there isn't going to be anything left over. Because if you're going into your account multiple times every day, you're just taking money out, there's nothing that's going to be there. Even if on paper you're supposed to have $300 left after you pay everything, it's not going to be there. Or if something is there, it's going to be a lot less. This is another mistake that I made constantly when I was younger. I would look at my budget and I would be like, okay, I'm going to have $300-$400 at the end of the month to save. I would get to the end of the month, and as you probably have already guessed, no, it's not there. Because with that money just sitting in your account, it is so easy to just keep dipping and dipping until there's nothing left. So in order to get ahead, you have to flip it. Pay yourself first. Treat your savings account like it's a bill that you have no choice but to pay. Pay it before your rent, your utilities, before you do anything else. Another reason why you might not be able to get ahead, even though you swear that you're doing everything right, is because you're constantly going into your emergency fund for non-emergencies. This is another huge mistake I think people make, because here's the thing. Your emergency fund, it's supposed to be there for things that come up that you have no choice but to take care of and you don't have the funds for. So think job loss. Maybe you're unable to work. Maybe your hours at work got cut. Maybe you have a serious big car repair, home repair, things that you have to take care of. That is the purpose of having an emergency fund. And for that reason, your emergency fund should really be about 3 to 6 months of living expenses minimum. Now, I always recommend having more, but at the very least, that's what you need. And for anyone who might not know this, $1,000 is not a sufficient emergency fund. It is a good start, and you have to start somewhere. And I always say, start with 1,000, work your way up to 2,500, maybe 5,000, and then, slowly get to the 3 to 6 months of living expenses. But don't get to $1,000 and stop, because that is a good rainy day fund, but it's not near what you need. But the issue with a lot of people is that they will put all their savings into one pot. And then if there's something that they want to do, they'll just go into that fund to pull out the money. And I'm talking about things like, okay, let's say your friends are going on a weekend getaway. Last minute, you didn't really have a whole lot of time to plan. Okay, I'll just go into my emergency fund. You're out, you're walking around, you see a pair of shoes, a sweater that you want. You don't have the money, but okay, I'll go into my emergency fund. A lot of people get into a habit of doing that, but that is not the purpose of the fund. And if you keep doing that, when you actually do have something serious happen, you're not going to have enough money available. And of course, this does not mean that you cannot save for other things. You absolutely should. That's how you're able to enjoy the more expensive experiences without using a credit card. But in those situations, you need to have different buckets for your funds or different sinking funds. And some banks make this really easy. Like, for example, if you have a high yield savings account with Ally, you can have your main savings, but then you can split different amounts into separate buckets. So you might have your 3 months of living expenses in this bucket. And then over here, you might have maybe your Europe vacation for next summer. And then you might have maybe like a home fund or something. That way, all your money is separated and you know what you're working with, and you're not dipping into your emergency fund to handle different things that come up. And I absolutely recommend having separate accounts or buckets because it keeps everything organized, and it also removes that temptation of dipping into your account when you should. And the fourth reason why a lot of people aren't able to save, even though they swear that they're doing everything right, is that they're not automating. And I know some people don't like to automate because they don't like the idea of just having money move out of their checking to their savings automatically. But if you do not have enough willpower or discipline to manually initiate transfers, your savings account, it's probably not going to grow as fast as you would like it to. So my recommendation is, instead of just avoiding automating because it makes you nervous, just take baby steps. Do a little bit at a time. Try automating first with $5 and maybe $10 and maybe $15. Get comfortable, then set it up where everything's on autopilot.